Hi, it's Maria from Still Dreaming Homestead. I'm glad to be back with you. Just a little closer. Well, we're on chapter 14 already. One Bright Day in the book The Long Winter by Laura Ingalls Wilder. Okay. That blizzard lasted only 2 days. Tuesday morning, Laura woke up suddenly. She lay with her eyes wide open, listening to hear again what had awakened her. There was no sound at all. Then she knew. The stillness had startled her awake. There was no noise of winds or swish, swish, swish of the icy snow scouring the walls and roofs and windows. The sun was glowing bright through the frost on the window at the top of the stairs, and downstairs Ma's smile was just like the sunshine. "The blizzard's over," she said. "It was only a 2-day blizzard." "You can never tell what a blizzard will do," Pa agreed. "It may be, that your hard winter won't prove to be hard at all," Ma said happily. "Now the sun is shining. They should have the trains running again in no time at all. And Laura, I'm sure there will be school today. Better get yourself ready for it." My hair is being pulled. "While I get breakfast." Laura went upstairs to tell Carrie and to put on her school dress. In the warm kitchen again, she scrubbed her face and neck well with soap and pinned up her braids. Pa breezed in gaily from doing the chores. "Old Sol's bright and shining this morning," he told him. "Looks like his face was well washed in the snow." Hashed brown potatoes were on the table. Ma's wild ground cherry preserve shone golden in a glass in the bowl. Ma stacked a platter with toast browned in the oven, and then took from the oven a small dish of butter. "I had to warm the butter," she said. "It was frozen as hard as a rock. I could not cut it. I hope Mr. Bose brings us some more soon." This is what the cobbler threw at his wife. Grace and Carrie were puzzled. While all the others laughed, it showed how happy Ma was that she was making jokes. "That was his all," Mary said, and Laura exclaimed, "Oh no, it was his last. That was all he had. Girls, girls," Ma said gently because they were laughing too much at the table. Then Laura said, "But I thought we were out of butter when we didn't have any yesterday." "Pancakes are good with salt pork," said Ma. "I saved the butter for toast." There was just enough butter for scraping on every slice. Breakfast was so merry in the warmth and stillness and light that the clock was striking 8:30 before they finished. And Ma said, "Run along, girls. This one time I'll do your housework." The whole outdoors was dazzling, sparkling brightly in the sunshine. All the length of Main Street was high drifts of snow, a ridge taller than Laura. She and Carrie had to climb to its top to get carefully down the other side. The snow was packed so hard that their shoes made no marks on it, and their heels could dig no dents to keep them from slipping. I'll show you a picture. Looks like they're pretty happy. In the schoolyard was another glittering drift almost as high as the schoolhouse. A drift is where the snow, when it's dry, has been blown like up against something, and so it gets much taller than the rest. Cap Garland and Ben and Arthur and the Wilmarth boys were skating down it on their shoes, as Laura used to slide on Silver Lake, and Mary Power and Minnie were standing out the cold sunshine by the door, watching the fun the boys were having. "Hello, Laura," Mary Power said gladly, and she tucked her mittened hand under Laura's arm and squeezed it. They were pleased to see each other again. It seemed A long time since Friday, and even since Saturday afternoon, they'd meant to spend time together. But there was no time for talk, for teacher came to the door, and girls and boys must go in for their lessons. At recess, Mary Power and Laura and Minnie stood at the window and watched the boys sliding down the snowdrift. Laura wished she could go outside and play too. "I wish we weren't so big now," she said. "I don't think it's any fun being a young lady." "Well, we can't help growing up," Mary Power said. "What would you do if you were caught in a blizzard, Mary?" Minnie Johnson was asking. "I guess I would just keep walking." "You wouldn't freeze if you kept walking," Mary answered. "But you'd tire yourself out. You'd get so tired you would die," said Minnie. "Well, what would you do?" Mary Power asked her. "I'd dig into a snowbank and let the snow cover me up. I don't think you'd freeze to death in a snowbank, would you, Laura?" "I don't know," said Laura. "Well, what would you do, Laura, if you got caught in a blizzard?" Minnie insisted. "I wouldn't get caught," Laura answered. She did not like to think about it. She would rather talk with Mary Power about other things. But Miss Garland rang the bell and the boys came trooping in, red with the cold and grinning. The whole day long everyone was as cheerful as the sunshine. At noon, Laura and Mary Power and Carrie, with the Beardsley girls, raced in the shouting crowd over the big snowdrifts home to dinner. Sorry, that's a tongue twister. On top of the high drift that was Main Street, some went north and some went south. Laura and Carrie slid down on its east side to their own front door. Pa was already at his place at the table. Mary was lifting Grace onto a pile of books in her chair, and Ma was so that she'd be tall enough. And Ma was setting a dish of steaming baked potatoes before Pa. "I do wish we had some butter for them," she said. "Salt brings out the flavor," Pa was saying, when a loud knocking sounded on the kitchen door. Carrie ran to open it, and big and furry as a bear in his buffalo coat, Mr. Bose came in. "Come in, Bose, come on in, come in," Pa kept saying. They were so glad to see him. "Come in and put your feet under the table. You're just in time." "Where's Mrs. Bose?" Mary inquired. "Yes, indeed. Didn't she come with you?" Ma asked eagerly. Mr. Bose was getting out of his wraps. "Well, no. You see, Elsie thought she must do the washing while the sun shone. I told her we'd have more good days, but she said she'd come to town on one of them. She sent you some butter. It's from the last of our churning. My cows are going dry. The weather we've been having, I couldn't take care of them properly." That means you have to milk a cow every day at the same time. People usually milk them morning and evening. And if you can't milk them, they will get less and less milk till they have none. Mr. Bose sat up at the table and they all began on the good baked potatoes with butter after all. "Glad to know you came through the storm all right," Pa said. "Yes, we're lucky. I was watering the stock at the well when the cloud came up. I hurried them in and had them all snug in the stable and got halfway to the house before the storm struck," Mr. Bose told them. The baked potatoes and hot biscuits with butter were delicious, and to finish the dinner, there were more biscuits with some of Ma's rich tomato preserves. That'd be like a tomato jelly. "There's no more salt pork in town," Pa said. "Getting all of our supplies from the east this way, we run a little short where the trains don't get through." "What do you hear about the train?" Mr. Bose asked him. "They've got extra gangs to work on the Tracy cut," Woodworth said. Pa replied, "and they're bringing out snow plows. We can look for a train before the end of the week." "Ellie's counting on me getting some tea and sugar and flour," said Mr. Bose. "The storekeepers keep raising their prices Are the storekeepers raising their prices any? Not that I know of, Pa reassured him. Nothing's running short but meat. Dinner was eaten, and Mr. Bose said he must be getting along to reach home before night. He promised to bring Mrs. Bose to see them all one day soon. Then he and Pa went up the street to Hawthorne's grocery, and Laura and Carrie, hand in hand, went joyously climbing up the drifts and sliding down them back to school. All the happy afternoon they were full of clear, cold air and bright as the sunshine. They knew their lessons perfectly. They enjoyed reciting them. Every face in school was smiling, and Cap Garland's flashing grin included them all. It was good to see the town alive again and to know that again all the weekdays would be school days. But in the night, Laura dreamed that Pa was playing the Wild Storm tune on his fiddle. And when she screamed to him to stop, the tune was a blinding blizzard swirling around her, and it had frozen her into solid ice. Then she was staring in the dark. But for a long time that nightmare had held her, stiff and cold. It was not Pa's fiddle that she heard, but the storm wind itself and the swish, swish of the icy snow on the walls and the roof. At last she was able to move, so cold that the dream had seemed half real. She snuggled close to Mary and pulled the quilts over her head. "What is it?" Mary murmured in her sleep. "A blizzard," Laura answered. Wow. Well, they're certainly having a lot of blizzards. But so far they're okay, and they had a wonderful day before the blizzard struck. Well, if you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, please, if you enjoy it, hit that like button and subscribe. If you know anybody else that would like to hear these stories, please share it with them. I want to pray blessings on you and yours, in your house and out of your house, in the day and in the night. Whatever you do, keep dreaming. Good night. God bless you.